The room fell silent as my mother's voice rang out, sharp and dismissive. "You'll never make it without me," she said, her words laced with the same condescension I'd grown accustomed to over the years. Her statement wasn't new, but this time it hit differently. The dinner table was a familiar battleground, and tonight her jab landed squarely on a sore spot. I glanced at my younger siblings, who stared at their plates, pretending not to notice the tension. My stepfather quietly sipped his coffee, his usual tactic to avoid confrontation. But I couldn't let it slide this time, not after the months I'd spent pouring every ounce of energy into a dream she refused to take seriously. "Mom, I'm working on something," I began, my voice steady but tinged with frustration. "Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's a waste of time," she scoffed, setting her fork down with a clatter. "Working on something? Please. You've always been the dreamer, always chasing clouds. Let me know when you're ready to face reality." Her words felt like a slap, but I refused to let her see the impact. Years of doubt, dismissals, and veiled insults had built up like a pressure cooker, and I was seconds away from boiling over. "You'll see," I said quietly, barely able to keep my voice from trembling. "One day, you'll see." She laughed then, a harsh, mirthless sound. "I'll see? Oh, honey, the only thing I'll see is you coming back to me, asking for help like always." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I barely tasted my food, my mind spinning with a mix of anger and determination. I replayed her words over and over, each syllable igniting a fire in my chest. By the time I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, one thing was clear. I was done letting her doubts define me. If she thought I would fail, I would prove her wrong. If she believed I'd come crawling back, I would show her the strength she had always underestimated. My plan wasn't fully formed yet, but one thought crystallized in my mind, sharp and clear. This time, I wouldn't let her win. As I closed my eyes, a sense of calm washed over me, tempered by the resolve simmering beneath the surface. This wasn't just about proving her wrong anymore. It was about reclaiming my own sense of worth. And I would do it, no matter what it took. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to fight. Little did I know, the path I was about to embark on would not only change my life but shake the foundation of everything my mother believed about me. Growing up, I always felt like I was living under a microscope. My mother, Patricia, was the type of woman who thrived on control and perfection. Her expectations were impossible to meet, and her approval was harder to earn. In her eyes, every mistake I made was proof of my inadequacy, every success a mere coincidence. As her eldest child, I bore the brunt of her constant scrutiny. Patricia wasn't always this way. Before my father passed away when I was 10, she was a softer, warmer version of herself. But his sudden death seemed to harden something inside her. Left to raise 3 children on her own, she adopted a no-nonsense approach to life. She took a job as a secretary at a local law firm, working long hours to ensure we never went without. For that, I was always grateful, but her sacrifices came with an unspoken cost. Her mantra was simple: if you want something done right, do it yourself. She applied this rule not only to herself, but to us as well. My siblings, Caleb and Jenna, learned quickly to stay out of her way, to nod and agree, to meet her expectations without question. But I was different. I had dreams that didn't fit neatly into the world she envisioned for me, a world of stability, predictability, and following her advice to the letter. From a young age, I was drawn to creativity. While other kids spent their afternoons at soccer practice or watching cartoons, I was sketching inventions in my notebook or building makeshift contraptions out of scrap materials I found in the garage. My father used to encourage my creativity, often joining me in my experiments. But after he passed, my mother's patience for my nonsense wore thin. In college, I decided to major in business, a choice that only widened the gap between us. She saw it as a waste of time and money. "You'll never make it," she warned. "Do you know how many people fail at what you're trying to do?" Her words stung, but they also fueled my determination. I threw myself into my studies, spending countless nights in the library, researching market trends and developing business plans. I worked part-time jobs to cover my expenses and took on internships. that offered little pay but invaluable experience. Each step brought me closer to my goals, but the more I achieved, the more distant my mother became. The real breaking point came during my senior year. I had been working on a startup idea with a group of classmates, a digital platform designed to connect freelancers with small businesses. We poured months into developing the concept, securing initial funding, and building a prototype. It was my first taste of what it felt like to turn an idea into reality, and I was ecstatic. When I finally mustered the courage to tell my mother about it, her reaction was predictably dismissive. "A startup?" she said, raising an eyebrow. "You're throwing away everything for a pipe dream." "It's not a pipe dream," I shot back, my voice trembling with frustration. "We've already secured funding. This could be something big." She shook her head, her expression a mix of pity and disbelief. "And what happens when it fails? When you're left with nothing? Don't come crying to me when you realize I was right." Her words stayed with me, gnawing at my confidence even as I pressed forward. The startup didn't succeed, but it wasn't the catastrophic failure she had predicted. It was a learning experience, one that set the stage for future ventures. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that, in her eyes, I had proven her right. After graduation, I moved out of the house and took a job at a marketing firm to make ends meet while I worked on my next business idea. The distance between us grew both physically and emotionally. Phone calls were infrequent, and when they happened, they were filled with her subtle jabs and unsolicited advice. "You're working yourself to death," she'd say. "Maybe it's time to accept that some dreams just aren't meant to come." True. But I couldn't give up, not on my dreams and not on proving to her that I was more than the failure she believed me to be. The resentment I felt toward her was matched only by a deep, unspoken desire for her approval, a contradiction that fueled my drive. As I looked back on those years, I realized how much I had sacrificed to chase my ambitions. Financial stability, social connections, even my relationship with my mother. But through it all, I held on to the belief that success wasn't just about proving her wrong. It was about proving to myself that I was capable of achieving the life I envisioned. Little did I know, the journey ahead would not only test my resilience, but also force my mother to confront the limitations of her own beliefs. Moving out of my mother's house brought a sense of liberation, but it also marked the beginning of a new set of challenges. While I no longer lived under Patricia's constant criticism, her words still echoed in my mind, especially during moments of doubt. I was balancing a full-time marketing job with my side hustle, an ambitious e-commerce platform I was determined to turn into a success. Sleep was a luxury, stress was my constant companion, and money was tight. 6 months into my new venture, I faced my first major hurdle. The savings I had earmarked for the platform's development were dwindling faster than I had anticipated. Between paying developers, purchasing inventory, and running targeted ads, my bank account balance was plummeting. To make matters worse, an unexpected medical bill wiped out what little cushion I had left. It was a harsh reminder of how precarious my financial situation was. When I confided in my mother during a rare phone call, her response was anything but supportive. "You see," she said with a mix of triumph and condescension, "this is exactly what I warned you about. Dreams don't pay the bills." "It's a setback, not a failure," I retorted, though her words stung. "I just need to recalibrate." She sighed, her tone dripping with pity. "Recalibrate all you want, but don't come crying to me when you hit rock bottom." Her dismissal fueled my resolve, but deep down, I couldn't help questioning myself. Was she right? Was I setting myself up for failure? Those doubts lingered as I scrambled to find a way to keep the platform afloat. Desperation led me to a risky decision. I reached out to an old college acquaintance, Brian, who had connections in the tech world. Brian had always been confident, bordering on arrogant, but he had a track record of successful startups. If anyone could help me secure funding or navigate the complexities of scaling a business, it was him. Brian agreed to meet. And over coffee, I pitched my idea with the kind of passion that came from sleepless nights and relentless hard work. He listened intently, nodding at all the right moments. "This is solid," he said, tapping his fingers on the table. "But you're playing small. If you want to make a real impact, you need serious capital." "I've been trying," I admitted. but most investors won't take a chance on someone with limited experience. Brian leaned back, a sly grin spreading across his face. Leave that to me. I know a few people who'd be interested. Give me a week to set up some meetings. Relief washed over me. Finally, someone who believed in my vision. But in my eagerness, I missed the warning signs, the way Brian avoided specifics, his reluctance to put anything in writing. I handed him access to key details of my business plan, naively assuming his help came without strings attached. A week turned into 2, then 3, with no updates from Brian. My texts went unanswered, and my calls went straight to voicemail. It wasn't until I stumbled upon an online article about a revolutionary e-commerce platform that I realized what had happened. The platform described in the article was eerily similar to mine, down to the target demographic and marketing strategy. And the name at the helm? Brian. Fury boiled within me as I pieced together the betrayal. He had taken my idea, pitched it as his own, and secured funding from investors I could only dream of accessing. The next day, I confronted Brian at a networking event. My heart pounded as I approached him, every ounce of me demanding answers. How? Could you? I hissed, barely able to keep my voice steady. You stole my idea. Brian didn't even flinch. Instead, he shrugged, his smug grin only fueling my anger. Relax, Emily, he said, his tone infuriatingly casual. It's just business. You'll come up with another idea. Another idea? I repeated, incredulous. Do you have any idea what I sacrificed to build that platform? He leaned in, his expression turning cold. And do you have any idea how naive you were to trust me? This world isn't fair, Emily. You either take what you can or get left behind. I walked away, my hands trembling with rage. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. But as the initial shock wore off, it was replaced by something far more powerful. Determination. Around this time, I reconnected with Sarah, an old friend from high school who had recently started her own marketing consultancy. Over drinks, I poured out the whole story, expecting sympathy. Instead, Sarah offered something more valuable, strategic advice. You can't let him get away with this, she said firmly. He may have stolen your idea, but he doesn't have your vision. You know your platform better than anyone. Build something better. Prove to everyone that you're the real deal. Her words reignited the fire within me. I spent the next few weeks reimagining my platform, refining its features, and brainstorming ways to outshine Brian's version. Sarah offered her expertise in marketing, helping me craft a campaign that would capture attention and set my brand apart. As I threw myself into this new chapter, my mother's disapproval resurfaced. She called one evening, her voice laced with concern. I heard, "You're still working on that e-commerce thing," she said. "Haven't you learned your lesson?" "I'm not giving up, Mom," I replied, trying to keep my tone calm. "This is what I want to do." "What do you want?" she snapped. "What about what you need? Stability, security, a real future?" Her words hit a nerve. "I'm building something, Mom. I don't need you to believe in it, but I need you to stop tearing me down." The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, she sighed. "I just don't want to see you get hurt." "I've already been hurt," I said, my voice firm. "But that's what makes me stronger." The conversation ended on an uneasy note, but it only strengthened my resolve to prove her wrong. As my platform gained traction, I discovered something shocking. Brian's version was riddled with flaws. Customer reviews exposed bugs in the system, delays in delivery, and poor user experience. Investors began pulling out, and Brian's reputation took a hit. Seeing his downfall was satisfying, but it wasn't enough. I wanted to ensure my platform became the go-to choice in the market. Using the feedback from Brian's mistakes, I improved my platform, addressing every issue users had faced with his version. The day I launched, I held my breath, waiting to see how the market would respond. Within hours, orders began pouring in. Sarah's marketing campaign had worked wonders, and the buzz around my platform quickly overshadowed Brian's failing venture. But the ultimate twist came when an investor who had backed Brian reached out, to me, intrigued by the success of my launch. Sitting in that meeting, outlining my vision and showcasing my progress, I felt a sense of vindication I hadn't known I needed. As I signed the deal with the investor, I couldn't help but wonder, was this the victory I had been striving for, or was it just the beginning of an even greater challenge? For the first time in years, I felt like I was on the cusp of something extraordinary, but the road ahead was far from clear. The betrayal by Brian and the lack of support from my mother had driven me to the edge, but it was at that edge that I found clarity. I realized I had two choices. I could let their actions define my failure, or I could use the pain they caused to fuel my success. I chose the latter. One sleepless night, staring at the ceiling of my tiny apartment, the solution hit me like a lightning bolt. I had been so focused on recovering from Brian's theft that I hadn't seen the opportunity it presented. Brian's platform was collapsing under the weight of its flaws I could exploit to create a superior product. I grabbed my notebook and began listing everything wrong with his version. Poor user experience, lack of transparency, slow delivery times, and a generic marketing strategy. Then I wrote down the features I had initially envisioned for my platform, features Brian had ignored in his rush to capitalize on my idea. It became clear, I didn't just need to rebuild my platform, I needed to make it something Brian couldn't touch. Realizing I couldn't do this alone, I reached out to Sarah for help. Over a late-night coffee, I laid out my plan. Brian may have stolen the idea, I said, my voice steady with determination. But he didn't steal my drive or my vision. I want to create something better, something undeniable. Sarah nodded, her eyes lighting up. Count me in. Let's show everyone what you're capable of. Sarah introduced me to a small network of developers and designers who were willing to work for equity in exchange for upfront payment. It wasn't easy convincing them to join a startup with limited resources, but my passion and the potential of the project eventually won them over. Together, we became a scrappy but dedicated team, working out of coffee shops and borrowed office spaces. The process of rebuilding the platform was grueling. We worked around the clock, often surviving on takeout and caffeine. Each setback felt like a personal attack, but every small victory reminded me why I was doing this. The platform was no longer just a business. It was a statement, a declaration that I wouldn't let betrayal define me. One night, as I reviewed the beta version of the platform, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. It represented months of hard work, sleepless nights, and unwavering determination. We launched the beta version quietly, targeting a small group of users to gather feedback. I held my breath as the first orders trickled in. To my relief, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Users praised the intuitive design, fast delivery, and personalized touches we had incorporated. For the first time, I felt like I was gaining ground. But the real breakthrough came when a popular influencer stumbled upon the platform and shared it with their followers. Overnight, traffic to the site skyrocketed. Orders poured in faster than we could process them, and I found myself scrambling to scale up operations. It was chaos, but it was the kind of chaos I had dreamed of. News of my platform's success didn't take long to reach Brian. I could imagine his frustration as he watched his stolen version falter while mine gained traction. The ultimate confirmation came when he reached out to me. "Emily," his message read, "I think we got off on the wrong foot. Let's talk." I stared at the screen, a mix of anger and satisfaction bubbling within me. The audacity of his attempt to reconcile after everything he had done was almost laughable. But instead of responding with anger, I decided to use this as an opportunity to solidify my position. I agreed to meet him in a public setting, knowing full well he wouldn't have the upper hand this time. The coffee shop was bustling when I arrived, but I spotted Brian immediately. He looked nervous, his confident facade noticeably absent. I sat across from him, my expression calm but unreadable. "You've been doing well," he started, attempting a friendly tone. "Impressive growth." "Thanks," I replied curtly, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. Brian shifted in his seat. "Look, I know things got complicated between us, but I think there's an opportunity here. We could work together." I raised an eyebrow, my voice steady. "You mean you want to piggyback off my success because your version failed?" He flinched but didn't deny it. I'm just saying, there's no need for bad blood. We can both benefit from this. I leaned forward, my gaze unwavering. Brian, I don't need you. You took what wasn't yours and thought you'd get away with it. But here's the thing. You can't steal vision or passion. That's why your platform failed, and that's why mine will continue to succeed. For the first time, Brian looked genuinely unsettled. I stood up, my confidence unshakable. Good luck, Brian. You're going to need it. Walking out of that coffee shop, I felt an overwhelming sense of liberation. Confronting Brian wasn't just about putting him in his place, it was about reclaiming my narrative. I wasn't a victim of his betrayal. I was the architect of my own success. With renewed focus, I poured everything into the platform. Sarah and I ramped up our marketing efforts, leveraging every tool at our disposal to stay ahead of the competition. Each milestone, no matter how small, felt like a victory. As the platform continued to grow, I received an unexpected invitation to speak at a major tech conference. The thought of standing on stage, sharing my story with industry leaders, was both thrilling and terrifying. But I knew this was my chance to cement my position as a legitimate entrepreneur. The night before the conference, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with doubts and insecurities. What if I stumbled? What if people saw through me? But then I thought about everything I had overcome, the betrayal, the doubts, the sleepless nights, and I realized I had earned this moment. Standing on that stage with the spotlight on me and hundreds of eyes watching, I took a deep breath and began to speak. I shared the story of my journey, the setbacks I had faced, and the lessons I had learned. By the time I finished, the room erupted in applause. For the first time, I felt like I truly belonged. As I stepped off the stage, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from one of the investors Brian had courted, expressing interest in partnering with me. I smiled, knowing this was just the beginning of an even greater chapter. The tech conference turned out to be the catalyst for an extraordinary turning point in my journey. As I left the venue, my inbox flooded with messages from investors, potential collaborators, and journalists eager to feature my story. What had started as a painful betrayal was now transforming into an undeniable victory. 1 week after the conference, I received a call from a lawyer representing one of Brian's investors. Apparently, Brian had oversold his capabilities and underdelivered on every front. The platform he had hastily put together was riddled with issues, leading to significant financial losses for the investors. The lawyer hinted that legal action was being considered against Brian. The irony wasn't lost on me. Brian, who had stolen my idea and mocked my abilities, was now the one facing the consequences of his greed and short-sightedness. As satisfying as it was to hear of his downfall, I knew I couldn't let it distract me from my own goals. Meanwhile, my platform was flourishing. Orders surged daily, and the feedback from users remained overwhelmingly positive. To meet the growing demand, Sarah and I hired a full-time team and moved into a modest but functional office space. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of my destiny. One day, as I sat in the newly decorated office, Sarah walked in with a huge grin. "You won't believe this," she said, handing me her phone. On the screen was an article from a major tech publication featuring my story. The headline read, "How One Woman Turned Betrayal into a $1 million Success Story." Reading the article brought tears to my eyes. It wasn't just about the recognition. It was about the validation of everything I had fought for. The sacrifices, the late nights, and the sheer determination had finally paid off. Not long after the article was published, I received an unexpected visitor, my mother. She showed up unannounced at my office, looking both nervous and humbled. I invited her in, unsure of what to expect. "I read the article about you," she began, her voice trembling. I didn't realize how much you had been through." I nodded, remaining silent as she continued. "I know I wasn't supportive. I doubted you when I should have believed in you. And now I see how wrong I was." Her admission caught me off guard. For years I had craved her approval, but in that moment I realized I no longer needed it. I had proven to myself that I was capable, and that was enough. "Thank you for saying that," I replied, my tone calm but firm. "But I didn't succeed because of anyone else. I succeeded because I believed in myself, even when no one else did. She looked down, clearly grappling with her own guilt. "I'm proud of you," she said softly. It was a small victory, but it felt significant. While our relationship would never be perfect, it was a step toward healing. As my business soared, Brian's situation worsened. News of the legal troubles surrounding his platform spread quickly, tarnishing his reputation in the tech world. Investors pulled out, and the platform eventually shut down. He reached out to me once more, this time with a desperate tone. "Emily," his message read, "I know I messed up. I'm sorry for what I did. Is there any way we can work something out?" I stared at the message for a long moment before deleting it. Brian's apology felt hollow, and I had no interest in revisiting the pain he had caused. My focus was on the future, not the past. As the dust settled, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me to this point. The betrayal had been devastating, but it had also forced me to grow in ways I never thought possible. I had discovered my resilience, learned to trust my instincts, and built something I could be proud of. One evening, as I sat on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the city lights twinkle below, I thought about the younger version of myself, the one who had been too afraid to take risks, too eager to please others. That version of me felt like a distant memory, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. The true moment of victory came when I received an invitation to join an exclusive panel of successful entrepreneurs at an international conference. As I stood on stage, sharing my story with an audience of thousands, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. This wasn't just about proving Brian or my mother wrong. It was about proving to myself that I could overcome anything. After the panel, a young woman approached me with tears in her eyes. "Your story inspired me," she said. "I've been doubting myself for so long, but now I feel like I can do anything." Her words touched me deeply. In that moment, I realized that my journey wasn't just about my success. It was about empowering others to believe in themselves no matter the obstacles they faced. The betrayal I had once thought would break me had instead become the foundation of my greatest triumph. Justice had been served, closure had been achieved, and I had emerged stronger than ever. My business was thriving, my confidence was unshakable, and my future felt limitless. Looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. Every challenge, every setback, and every heartbreak had led me to this moment. And for that, I was grateful. Sitting in the glow of my success, I found myself reflecting on how far I had come. The journey wasn't just about building a business or achieving financial success. It was about rediscovering my strength, reclaiming my self-worth, and transforming pain into purpose. When I think about those early days, being dismissed by my mother, betrayed by Brian, and doubted by almost everyone in my life, I could have easily given up. The obstacles seemed insurmountable, and the loneliness of feeling unsupported weighed heavily on me. But something deep inside refused to let me quit. I realized that my worth wasn't defined by anyone else's opinion of me. It was something only I could establish. It wasn't easy. The nights spent crying into my pillow, the constant self-doubt, and the fear of failure felt overwhelming at times. But every challenge pushed me closer to discovering who I truly was. I learned to silence the voices that told me I wasn't enough and to amplify the one that said, "Keep going." Now, I was no longer the person who sought validation from others. I had become someone who trusted her instincts, embraced her vision, and owned her success unapologetically. The scars from betrayal didn't disappear, but they became a reminder of my resilience. Each one told a story of strength, courage, and perseverance. Looking in the mirror, I saw someone I was proud of. Not because of the money I earned or the recognition I received, but because I had proven to myself that I could overcome anything. I had taken control of my narrative and turned it into something powerful and inspiring. This journey taught me some of the most valuable lessons of my life. Believe in yourself, even when no one else does. The people closest to me doubted my potential, but their disbelief became fuel for my determination. Believing in yourself is the first step to achieving anything. If you wait for others to validate your dreams, you'll wait forever. Betrayal can be a catalyst for growth. As painful as Brian's actions were, they forced me to step out of my comfort zone and fight for what I deserved. Sometimes, the worst situations lead to the greatest opportunities for growth. Success is the best revenge. While I didn't set out to prove anyone wrong, achieving my goals sent a clear message. Underestimating me was their mistake. True success isn't about vengeance. It's about realizing your potential and living your best life. Surround yourself with the right people. Sarah was my rock throughout this journey. Her unwavering belief in me reminded me that I wasn't alone. Find people who uplift you and let go of those who bring you down. As I looked ahead, I felt a sense of excitement and possibility. The business I built was thriving, but it was just the beginning. I had plans to expand, mentor aspiring entrepreneurs, and use my platform to inspire others. The struggles I endured weren't just for my success. They were for everyone who needed to hear that their dreams were worth fighting for. I also began to mend relationships with people in my life, including my mother. While we would never have a perfect bond, her admission of guilt and her attempts to rebuild our connection showed me the power of forgiveness. Letting go of resentment wasn't just for her, it was for me too. To anyone watching this, I want you to know that your dreams are valid no matter who doubts you. Life will throw challenges your way, and sometimes the people you trust most may let you down. But those challenges don't define you. Your response to them does. Believe in yourself, even when it feels like the whole world is against you. Take risks, work hard, and trust that every setback is an opportunity to learn and grow. You are stronger than you think, and your potential is limitless. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and share your own experiences of overcoming challenges or proving others wrong. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. Together, we can create a community that uplifts and empowers each other to chase our dreams unapologetically. Thank you for watching, and remember, your story isn't over yet. Keep writing it, keep living it, keep proving to yourself that you are capable of greatness.